We live in an era where information bombards us from every direction. Every single day, hundreds of news stories, articles, and videos are pumped into our brains. But here is a fundamental question. Has this massive influx of information actually made us wiser or more truly knowledgeable? What do we actually mean when we say someone possesses knowledge and awareness? What is knowledge? How is it acquired? And how can we be sure that the path we've chosen to understand the world is leading us to the truth rather than deceiving us? In this video, we want to step away from the daily noise and return to the roots. We are going to put humanity's tools of perception on the dissecting table, critique them, and ultimately discover where something like revelation fits into this puzzle of awareness. Join me on this journey. Let's start with the very first step, defining knowledge. Today, when we hear the word science or knowledge, our minds instantly shift toward physics, chemistry, biology, and laboratory experiments. But the true root meaning of knowledge is far broader than a laboratory. In its truest sense, knowledge means attaining awareness of the actual reality of a thing. It means that when you comprehend a phenomenon exactly as it is, you have gained knowledge of it. Now, this reality could be the formula for gravity. It could be understanding the psychological layers of your own mind, or grasping a profound philosophical concept. Therefore, knowledge is the lifting of the veil of ignorance to face reality. This brings us to our second question. How does humanity lift this veil? How do we acquire this knowledge?
Throughout history, humans have primarily relied on three main tools or paths to understand the world and gain knowledge. The first path is sense and experience. We see with our eyes, hear with our ears, touch and test these sensations using scientific instruments. This is the foundation of all modern empirical sciences. The second path is reason and logic. Where our physical senses fall short, intellect steps in. By stacking logical premises one after another, we arrive at conclusions we might not be able to physically see, much like mathematics or philosophical principles. We use reason to process the data our senses gather. The third path, which certain philosophers and mystics emphasize, is intuition or inner perception. These are moments when a person perceives a profound truth internally, without the need for logical arguments or physical experiments. It would seem that these three tools are more than enough for a human to become wise and knowledgeable, wouldn't it? But truth be told, that is not the case. Our greatest mistake is assuming that our tools of perception are flawless. Let's critique these paths. First of all, our five senses are deeply limited and prone to error. Our eyes can only perceive a tiny fraction of the light spectrum. We cannot see ultraviolet or infrared waves without specialized gear. Our ears miss countless frequencies. Beyond that, our senses constantly deceive us. Think of seeing a mirage in the desert. Therefore, sensory experience alone cannot be the source of absolute truth. Now, we might say that reason corrects the errors of our senses, but what about reason itself? The human intellect is entirely dependent on the information it receives. If you feed a logical system flawed data, it will hand you a perfectly logical, yet entirely incorrect conclusion. The history of science is filled with theories that seemed 100% rational at the time, like the geocentric model of the universe, which we later discovered were completely wrong. On top of that, our brains are hardwired with cognitive biases. We naturally favor information that aligns with what we already believe. As for intuition, it is a deeply personal experience, making it impossible to formulate into a universal, verifiable science for everyone.
Beyond our immediate senses and reasoning, we possess another massive source of awareness: experience. This comes in two forms. It is either our own personal experience, meaning we walked a path, failed, or succeeded, and gained insight from it, or it is relying on the experiences of others through historical accounts and tradition. We go to school, read history, and listen to the wisdom of older generations because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We trust transmitted experience to make us wiser. But can this source deliver us to absolute truth? Let's critique this as well. First, our personal experience is heavily biased by our emotions, geography, and culture. What I experience today as an absolute certainty might be completely different for someone on the other side of the world. Second, when we rely on the experiences of others and history, we face the massive challenge of authenticity and distortion. How can we be sure that the stories passed down to us happened exactly the way they were recorded? History is often written by the victors, and many hands can alter reality to serve their own narratives. Therefore, our own experience is trapped within our personal timeline, and the experience of others is always vulnerable to doubt, memory gaps, and manipulation. So how do we access a pure form of awareness that is neither bound by my personal limitations nor toyed with by the distortions of others? When we confront the limitations of human sense and reason, we realize that to escape our own errors, humanity requires a connection to a source of absolute knowledge, a source that transcends time and space, free from optical illusions or cognitive biases. This is where the concept of revelation comes into play. Now, here lies the ultimate challenge. Can revelation be considered a form of knowledge? From one perspective, revelation is the highest tier of knowledge. It provides humanity with truths that could never be discovered in a laboratory, nor reached by intellect alone, such as the realities of existence beyond death or the ultimate purpose of creation. But how should a rational person approach revelation? Should it be accepted blindly? Absolutely not. In fact, intellect has its greatest duty here. Reason must evaluate whether this revelation truly originates from that absolute source or if it is a false claim. In other words, reason verifies the credibility of the source of revelation. Once it is assured, it can then rely on that error-free knowledge to complete its understanding. In reality, reason and revelation are not opposites. They are two wings allowing humanity to soar toward ultimate truth.
But let us examine the other side of the coin. Accepting revelation as a valid source of knowledge is by no means simple. It faces profound challenges and critiques that a rational person cannot simply ignore. The first and most significant challenge is the problem of verifiability. Revelation is an entirely subjective, internal experience for the prophet. As the observer, I did not personally hear the voice or witness the divine messenger. So how can I be certain that someone claiming revelation is truly connected to an absolute source of knowledge and is not experiencing a psychological delusion, or worse, intentionally deceiving people? History is littered with false prophets who misled millions by claiming a connection to the divine. The second challenge is the problem of interpretation and language. Even if we accept that a revelation originated from an infallible source, it was delivered through human language and within a specific historical context. Human words are inherently limited, and human interpretation of a single text is fragmented. The existence of hundreds of conflicting sects and denominations, all interpreting the exact same sacred text differently, proves that our understanding of revelation is still trapped by the limitations of our own minds. The third challenge is the apparent conflict between certain revelatory statements and empirical science or core logic. When a religious claim seemingly contradicts verified scientific facts or self-evident logical truths, what should a rational mind choose? This is precisely why thinkers argue that revelation without the protective shield of reason can easily collapse into superstition or blind fanaticism. Reason must act as a continuous filter to...
Becoming truly wise is a step-by-step journey. It begins with recognizing our own limitations, knowing that our senses can deceive us, that our intellect doesn't know everything, and that to reach comprehensive truth, we must use all tools, sense, reason, and revelation, in their proper places. In the upcoming videos on this channel, we are going to unpack this journey of awareness and explore its details together. What do you think? In the life of modern humans, do you think the scale tips more towards sensory experience or intellect and faith? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe. Until the next video, stay aware and stay wise.